Please help me join and welcome Boaz Hecht to the stage. Boaz, are you back there? All right, Boaz.
Hiya.
How are you, Boaz?
Good.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Well, I think they're going to even let us sit because they said it's supposed to be like a fireside chat. So imagine like a nice fireplace out there. We have a little brandy. This is not brandy, it's really water. So we're going to sit here. So yeah, sit down.
We can start a fire if you
We
like.
could do that. I know you probably would be willing to.
Absolutely.
So Boaz, I asked before who was their first Worldwide Partner Conference. Have you attended this before?
No, Josh, my
But
colleague.
you've never attended.
I'm
So not only have you not attended, but now you're sitting just amongst a few of our friends here. So
we just had that conversation.
yeah, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Anyway, a SkyGiraffe, I think it's super interesting. I mean, one of the things you heard me talk about is from a customer standpoint, the pressure on customers around time to market. And obviously, customers have had over the years some legacy. They may have disparate systems, but they're getting pressure from the business to produce. And it's not pressure like, get it to me in a year. It's like days and weeks. And so give me a little bit about the SkyGiraffe story and how that relates to speed to market and how you're thinking about and how you're engaging with enterprise customers.
Sure, thank you. So thanks for having me. It's an honor and not at all overwhelming.
We're all friends, don't worry.
We started the company just under 3 years ago. The premise was basically to solve that issue. We were seeing that in the market, enterprises really wanted to enable their employees to interact with data, like you mentioned, but the ability to engage in 2-3 year projects just wasn't scalable. An enterprise needs to provide access to multiple different backend systems, whether they're on-prem, whether they're cloud, and I, as an employee, need to be able to read on my phone my CRM, while also being able to write back to my ERP. So we basically built a platform that enables a large enterprise to connect to their disparate on-prem and cloud systems while being an enterprise-grade security, so single sign-on with Active Directory, with cloud-based systems like Salesforce and other vendors, where you can basically deploy applications within hours rather than within months and years.
That's fantastic. And I know when we've chatted, a lot of the applications, and it's great, it's Microsoft, so you've got a lot of Microsoft solution, but the reality is that customers do have heterogeneous environments. So is that a showstopper, or can you do both Microsoft as well as non? Right.
So we basically are able to take in data from any system. It's built on top of the Microsoft stack. So we have an on-prem server that connects into your SQL servers, your analysis services, but then also Oracle and SAP and OData web services and Salesforce in the cloud and ServiceNow and Jive and all of the different enterprise systems that people are really using, and then bringing it onto the effectively the stack that we own, which is on top of the Microsoft stack. So it runs on Azure if the customer has cloud. It also runs on-prem completely if the customer has only on-prem today, but is going through the process of rolling out cloud, and then it also runs in a hybrid environment.
I see. So again, flexible, integrated, both are two things that we spoke about earlier, that sort of check mark. So that's great. And tell me a little bit about, 3 years, you might have feel like a lifetime to you for 3 years building the company, but can you talk a little bit about what were the keys to success and what actually contributed to 3 years later? You've got, you and I spoke. You have a lot of enterprise customers, and sounds like you have a pretty good list of others coming as well. But what really was the difference? How did you become successful in 3 years?
So I think it's the pain point, like you mentioned. I think at least our approach from the beginning was somewhat coming in at it from the opposite direction. We focused on the concept that enterprises are getting 5 times as many IT requests for mobility from back-end systems than they can deal with. We've noticed that almost half of projects are being delayed or canceled because of back-end access. So our entire approach was from the back end. And so as soon as we built a platform that enabled a company to get 10, 20, 30x multiples on the number of apps they can build, and the ability to connect into their disparate systems and then roll them out to Windows, iOS, Android, and literally any platform, it meant that it's compelling to pretty much every enterprise today. We've literally not met a single enterprise that says, hey, we're not really concerned with mobility, it's not an issue. And so when we start the conversation from, what if we can come in for a day and literally build a minimum viable production application that connects into your...
So one day.
One day.
One day.
Single day. We walk in, we connect into their production system. Obviously, we set up in advanced access, but essentially we can connect into, just for argument's sake, a SQL Server production application or a Teradata production application, and then you have an iPhone app that you're able to then read and write from that system on that day. You then go through the entire enterprise process of rolling it out, but the app has been built, and so you're going through your regular bureaucracy versus going through the development cycle, which then takes 6, 12 months per app, with security concerns, with approvals, with all the other issues that you can effectively skip if you can do that.
So what happens if someone happens to be running an application that, let's just say they were running Salesforce, and they wanted to actually replace it with Dynamics on the back end? Just as curious.
Sure.
How difficult? Theoretically. What would happen there?
So that's the beauty of the platform. You effectively have a middle layer that disconnects between the two systems. So your sales folks are still using the same application.
I see, from a
On
front
the
end.
back end, you've a very common occurrence is SQL, to 2014. So I have an application running on SQL 2010. I'm running to 2014, and I need to have that up to date. I am upgrading that system that doesn't break the end user's experience.
I see. So the business, you can satisfy the business at the same time you can do all the back end. You mentioned that I think it was UPS Israel had received some award. Can you give us a little bit? What was the award and why?
Sure. So we worked with UPS's representative in Israel, which is a logistics company, obviously, and they have customer 360 requirements for their corporate sales guys, which means they need to read and write from multiple different back-end systems, and the ability to do that while also looking at upgrading their back-end systems, because any enterprise is in the middle of a bunch of consolidation projects, they can effectively build an application. They can be future-proof for when they do move to the cloud. They can also be future-proof for any choice they make for a vendor on the underlying system, but they already have a solution for the end users immediately, which deals with future upgrades of mobile devices and future upgrades of desktop access or anything you need, but they don't need to say, okay, we're going to finish the project before we get to actually get to market.
That's great. And so they were able to, they were recognized for some sort of
Absolutely,
customer.
yes. In Israel, there's a local award for the Israeli market, which is quite a well-known award in Israel, where they basically won the innovation award for that.
Fantastic. That's great. One quick final questions I have is, so what was the partnership like with Microsoft, and then what advice would you give to our friends out there as well? But I'd love to hear a little bit about the partnership. Sure.
So we started the partnership with actually the field sales organization out in Israel before we moved to the US. It was super interesting because we had an aligned kind of objective, which was customers really needed access to mobile, and there aren't really any solutions on the market that gives them the scale and speed that we can, and the agility of being able to be on-prem, cloud, hybrid, and any other architecture they need. And so we had quite good success with that. We were then the first investment for Microsoft Ventures. So when Microsoft Ventures created a fund, we were their first investment. We've since gone on to raise further money. But when I started in the US, it was very much about working with the sales guys who are really hearing what the issues are for the customer and needing to provide a solution immediately, not a grandiose promise that will require multiple different complicated processes. It's just, hey, can we just meet up? We'll do a one-day workshop. We can do it at the MTC. We can do it on-site, and then let's just provide added value to the end customer. So really, knowing the customer, going deep, but also being able to rapidly provide a solution that would solve a business problem, and then delivering, obviously, is important. Absolutely. It's kind of we've gone after kind of the minimum viable production application concept, where you, instead of being a mock-up, it's a production application. And so you're iterating once you already have the application in hand. At UPS, we gave it to the sales guys to tell us what they think, and then iterated. It wasn't a definition. And they were probably pretty honest, right? Oh, absolutely. They're like, look, this doesn't help me. I don't have this number. Right. And we can then fix that immediately versus spending 2 months on a change request. So what's next? And then I will let you go. What's next? Do you have any other plans? Yeah. So we're basically expanding right now. So we're looking for partners, and that's why we're here really. We're looking for partners, systems integrators, ISVs, and basically anybody that can really utilize our platform to further their business, which will work with with us together. So anybody who wants to get in touch, we'd love to speak.
And we actually put your email address and
yeah.
phone number up there as well. So you were
Thank
that
you.
serious about that. So
Thank
please
you.
do. Thank you so much. Help me just again thank Boaz. That
Thank
was
you for having me.
fantastic. It was
Thank
great.
you. Thanks,
Thank
Susan.
you for sharing the
Thank you.
story. Thank you so much.